that we have among us a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Bali Mardan Prabhu ji. एक बार जोरदार तालियों के साथ स्वागत कीजिए प्रभु जी का. Yeah, welcome here. So we requested Prabhu ji today morning, and Prabhu ji very kindly accepted our request to come and give association to all of you. So I'll just brief him about. Just be seated now. You can sit down. So आप में से बहुत लोग को पता नहीं होगा कि ISKCON कैसे एस्टेब्लिश हुआ, कैसे स्प्रेड हुआ. So Srila Prabhupada is the founder acharya of ISKCON, as you know, and he established ISKCON in 1966 in New York. And अभी आप देखिए ISKCON के more than 800 centers हैं, more than 800 centers throughout the world. हरि बोल. तो अभी आप कोई से भी कंट्री में जाओ, आपको ISKCON के लोग, ISKCON के विग्रह और ISKCON का प्रसाद तो जरूर मिलेगा. इवन इन मिडिल ईस्ट कंट्री, कोई से भी कंट्री में जाओ, इवन इन बहरीन वी हैव ISKCON सेंटर देयर. ISKCON का प्रसाद आपको जरूर मिलेगा वहां पे. तो इसलिए मिलेगा क्योंकि डिवोटीज लाइक प्रभु जी वाज वेरी इंस्ट्रूमेंटल इन स्प्रेडिंग ISKCON थ्रू आउट द ग्लोब एट इनिशियल लेवल. आप देखिए जब ISKCON एस्टेब्लिश हुआ था, आप जब पढ़ेंगे प्रभुपाद लीलामृत नामक एक बुक है, वहां पे डिटेल में वर्णन है इन सब चीजों का. सो पहले प्रभुपाद जब न्यूयॉर्क में एस्टेब्लिश किए, उसके बाद डिफरेंट जगह पे अपने डिसाइपल्स को भेजते थे प्रभुपाद. एंड प्रभु जी वाज वेरी सीनियर डिसाइपल ऑफ प्रभुपाद. प्रभुपाद ने इनको सबसे पहले भेजा ऑस्ट्रेलिया अकेले. वहां पे प्रभु जी ने एस्टेब्लिश किया ISKCON. ऑस्ट्रेलिया से पहले जापान में एस्टेब्लिश किया ISKCON. फिर जापान के अलावा जापान, फिर ऑस्ट्रेलिया, फिर उसके बाद एशियन कंट्रीज में जैसे डेनमार्क और डिफरेंट कंट्रीज में प्रभु जी वाज वेरी इंस्ट्रूमेंटल इन स्प्रेडिंग ISKCON, एक्सपेंडिंग ISKCON. इसलिए हम इतना प्राउडली अभी बोल पा रहे हैं कि हाँ हमारे 800 से ज़्यादा सेंटर्स हैं. बट वो नहीं होता अगर ये डेडिकेटेड डिवोटीज इनिशियल लेवल पे नहीं होते. तो नाउ ऑल्सो प्रभु जी हैज लॉट ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज इन ISKCON. He is a prominent and one of initial disciples of Srila Prabhupada. He connected to ISKCON in 1968 at 2nd Avenue Street, New York. 1968. So it's been more than close to 60 years. ISKCON से जुड़े हुए हैं प्रभु जी और भगवद गीता का प्रचार करने. He initiated by Srila Prabhupada in Montreal, 1968. His first service to Srila Prabhupada was to serve Srila Prabhupada's personal Radha Krishna deities, making them flower garlands, bhoga, etc. तो प्रभुपाद जो राधा कृष्ण के विग्रह थे उसका सेवा करते थे प्रभु जी initially. And he is a pioneer in spreading Krishna consciousness in many countries like Australia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Fiji, New Zealand and many other countries. अभी न्यूजीलैंड में हम जाते हैं तो प्राउडली बोलते हैं, डिवोटीज फोटो शेयर करते हैं कि हरि बोल प्रभु जी वी आर इन न्यूजीलैंड ISKCON टेम्पल. वो नहीं होता अगर प्रभु जी जैसे डिवोटीज नहीं करते. तो many significant leadership roles Prabhuji is involved in within ISKCON, particularly in managing the printing of books and overseeing ISKCON's growth in Far East and Australia. He had a close and important relationship with Srila Prabhupada, who wrote him more than 150 letters. तो उस समय व्हाट्सएप नहीं था. उस समय प्रभुपाद लेटर्स लिखते थे अपने डिसाइपल्स को. वो डिफरेंट कंट्री में पहुंचता था 1-2 वीक बाद, और वहां से डिसाइपल्स को इंस्ट्रक्शन मिलता था कि हाँ अब हमें ये करना है. And he was appointed by Prabhupada to manage the ISKCON press and print books, and also he has also served as a secretary for Prabhupada. So let's welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting one time Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
You all inspired me because I was in the USA and now I'm in India. So your devotion inspired me to come back to India.
Yeah, so Prabhuji, they have completed Discovery of Permanent Happiness course, DVPS course, and they have been with us for around 2 months.
Yeah. That's a good beginning. Yeah. But when I was in India in the 70s with Srila Prabhupada, and I think we had maybe at the time about 7 temples, Calcutta, Bombay, New Delhi, and a few more, say maybe 7. And now we have hundreds. So that shows you that the power of Srila Prabhupada's Vani, his teaching, is much more potent than his physical body. When his physical body was present, he motivated us. But we were so close to him. It's like if you stand next to the Empire State Building, you can only see what your eyes can see, maybe the first 20, 30 feet. But if you go back a distance, then you see it's like over 100 floors. It's a very big building. So we couldn't understand Srila Prabhupada's greatness while we were so close to him. But now we see the power of his teaching. It's like a nuclear reaction. It reaches critical mass and then it just expands on its own. But so that shows us that Srila Prabhupada is present with us in sound, in the sound of his words, in his books, which is why Prabhupada's spiritual master, Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, instructed Prabhupada, even if you have to sell the temples, use the money to print books, because the books will last for a long time. And the Vaishnava is present in his teachings, because they're not material words, they're transcendental words. They transcend this material world. And Srila Prabhupada, he brought the spiritual world into the material world. Just like Krishna, when he appeared in Vrindavan, it was the spiritual world, it wasn't the material world. So Srila Prabhupada is introducing us to the spiritual world by bringing these temples to Lord Chaitanya ordered every town and village one should open a temple. So Srila Prabhupada was very sincere, worked 24 hours a day to fulfill the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Nityananda, who was an expansion of Lord Chaitanya, was given the province of Bengal to preach in. And every year he would go and spend time in Jagannath Puri with Lord Chaitanya, but then Lord Chaitanya would send him back to Bengal to preach to the common people without any distinction. Because the original caste system, that Varnashram Dharma that had been instigated thousands of years ago, had deteriorated until people thought that it was hereditary. But Krishna teaches something different, that anyone can become spiritualized and become even better than a Brahmin, a Vaishnav. Nothing is written in stone. You can change your life. Everyone is a spirit soul, and there's no distinction from one spirit soul to another. They're equal. So our mission in human life is to uncover that spirit soul, to uncover our spiritual identity with Krishna, and to realize the nectar of Krishna consciousness. When you go to the temple, you're in the spiritual world. Those are spiritual activities. Once Prabhupada was having a meeting, and one devotee complained that not many people showed up. So Prabhupada said, "You didn't see Narada Muni?" Like in the Gaur Arti that we sing every day in the evening. Narada is present, Lord Brahma, the demigods. And when your eyes become open, you see that spiritual world, and Krishna allows you to enter into those spiritual activities. So, I'm really inspired to see, how the Indian people are taking to this Krishna consciousness. From 7 temples to over 300 and growing every day. Haribol, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Because that's his potency that's spreading it. He's present in ISKCON. You don't have to have been physically with him when he appeared. He only appeared for 11 years. But in that 11 years, he changed the world. before he appeared, who knew about Hare Krishna? No, practically no one. And now the whole world, you can travel around the world and see people chanting everywhere. So he is freeing us from these material bonds that are holding us: birth, death, disease, and old age. In America, they spend billions of dollars. They call it estate planning. Now, you come into this world with nothing. And when you leave this world, you also leave with nothing. What are you going to take with you? Can anyone say they can take their gold, their diamonds, their jewelry? No, it doesn't go with you. Only your soul passes. Your body's still here, but the soul is gone. Shakespeare called it the undiscovered country. But in the great Vedic knowledge, we have the information about that country, about that other side. And that's the science of Krishna consciousness. It's not a religion, it's not a belief, it's a science. And if you practice it, you'll practically see the results. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's stated that one who has once tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord, bhakti, can never forget it. So once you get that taste, that will give you the motivation to continue and spiritualize your life. It's not that everyone has to become a sannyasi. Even a householder can preach. You meet so many people, tell them about Krishna consciousness. Get them to chant Hare Krishna. On YouTube, we have people having these rasa kirtan in Arab countries, and they're all chanting Hare Krishna. They don't realize that it's, spiritual. They just like it because it's nectar. They experience the nectar without even understanding the philosophy. Just like there was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and he was not very educated, but he said that, but he was very ecstatic, always in ecstasy. And he said, I don't know what's happened. My spiritual master told me to chant this mantra, and now, I'm in spiritual bliss everywhere, every moment. So this is the process. Start chanting on beads is the best. Read Bhagavad Gita, tend the temple, and then gradually your spiritual life will be revealed. You'll experience it. And your children also will take to it naturally. I was preaching in Malaysia. There were a lot of Indian families who came from Africa, from Idi Amin, they left, and also Sindhis who were displaced when they had the partition, and they ended up in Malaysia. And the children also participated. They would invite me to their houses for kirtan, and we'd have programs, and the children started chanting. And when I left, the children became more proactive in pushing Krishna consciousness forward than even the parents, because it's natural. And when you're a child, you're not covered up so much as when you get older and you have, experienced so many hardships in life, and you get a little bitter, a little disappointed. But young people are, they take to it naturally. They dance, they chant, and it's really great for them. But it doesn't mean you have to, stop material activities. You can continue them, but continue them for Krishna. Dedicate them to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, give me the results of your activity. Don't stop activity. Don't stop your duty. You have to provide for your family, but just do it for me. Like I was staying with one Prabhu's house here, and he has an altar in his house, and always the sound of Srila Prabhupada or kirtan going on, and it's almost like a temple. But he's always coming to the temple also, so he's very busy, but busy for Krishna. and he's experiencing the nectar that comes with that. So what do you think? You guys have any questions?
Questions? If anybody has any questions, okay, you may ask.
Can you tell us more about Prabhupada ji?
Yeah, Prabhupada was, well, Prabhupada said about his spiritual master. Can I get a cup of water?
Yeah.
Someone once asked him about his spiritual master, and he said he was a Vaikuntha man, meaning that he was from the spiritual world. He was completely pure, great soul, pure devotee of the Lord. So, Srila Prabhupada was born in Calcutta. And his father was a great devotee of Radha and Krishna. And when he grew up, he used to play, he used to make his own little Jagannath cart, Rath Yatra, and play with it. And Prabhupada said he never knew what was sin because he was in the family of pure devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one who starts this process, if he doesn't continue it, then in his next life he'll take a birth, that allows him to continue. But he does it. But he starts from where he left off. Nothing is ever lost. So, but Srila Prabhupada was different. He was a pure devotee from his birth. He never engaged in any sinful activity, and he had a business, and he used to go to an astrologer, and the astrologer told him he was going to become a very wealthy man because he had this company that was making medical products. And Srila Prabhupada says that, when Krishna wants someone, he takes everything away. So then you have to depend just on Krishna. So at some point in his life, he met his spiritual master, and they loved each other. Prabhupada said, from that day on, I knew the meaning of love, because real love is eternal. We have what Plato called, we're in a cave, and we're playing in the shadows of our real life. It's a reflection of our real life, because we'll always be a person, but we won't be a person in a temporary material world where we have to take birth, death, disease, and old age. We'll be in an eternal world serving Krishna. And so Srila Prabhupada was ordered by his spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness in the English language in particular, and in the West. But Srila Prabhupada, being so merciful, he extended the order of his spiritual master because he loved India, and he loves the people of India. So what Prabhupada did was he brought Krishna consciousness by himself with no money. He went on a cargo ship and to get to New York, Boston and New York. And he relied on Krishna and established this movement, getting thousands of people, opening hundreds of temples in the West. But then he brought those disciples to India to show the Indian people who in many ways wanted to follow the West in many ways. So he used to call us his white elephants to attract people. So, but he's so merciful. Not only did he free the West from material consciousness, but he brought it back to India, the original culture of India, to reestablish the original culture of India. That's thousands of years old, that periodically becomes covered up and so many charlatans and false prophets, claim with many claims, but no basis in the Shastra. So Prabhupada follows the Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the books that tell us how to live and how to do everything, how to make our life successful and our children's life successful. And one can experience that nectar very easily. First thing is to try and chant Hare Krishna. Prabhupada wants us to chant 16 rounds a day, which takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how you chant. But also the quality of your chanting is also important. That's something you work at to improve it. And then read his books, because he knows the books will last, and he can put his teachings in the books, which is non-different from himself. So when you read his books, you're actually getting his association. So even though you weren't able to associate with him when he was physically here, you can associate with him spiritually. And that's the best thing, because then, in your heart, he will help you. By the kripa, the mercy of the Guru and the mercy of Krishna, one can escape from the grip of Maya, of this material things that keep pulling us from one thing to another. But we have to understand first that we're not this body. That's the first thing to understand. All the religions talk about the eternal soul, but none of them give you any information about it except for Krishna consciousness. Because it's a science. And what I was saying before about estate planning in Florida, all the older people, they go there to escape the bad weather and, try and and they hit a little ball around a grass, a little hole in the grass, and they try to get the ball in the hole. Does that make any sense? And they spend billions of dollars on planning how their assets will be divided when they die. But they spend no time planning for their soul, where their soul is going after they die. Although everyone recognizes there's a soul, but no one acts to, do anything about it. So this is Krishna consciousness. We are giving you freely, the plan for your soul, how your soul can, become free from birth, death, disease, and old age, which everyone must face at some point who's born here. So it's actually a very glorious science. And India can lead the world, because actually a lot of our Indian devotees are now preaching in America. And these are not like ordinary people. These are ITT graduates, master's degrees, and they've given up their careers in order to spread Krishna consciousness. But you only have to spread it in your families. Make your family Krishna conscious. Make your children, give your children the opportunity. Prabhupada's giving us an opportunity. He used to say, even before he had temples, he used to have meetings in different places. And at one place in New York City on West 72nd Street, a person named Dr. Misra used to invite Prabhupada to have meetings at his place. And Prabhupada wrote out in his own writing, please take advantage of this great opportunity. So everyone has free will. We decide our future. So Prabhupada is here opening the door for us to go through into the spiritual worlds. But we have to want to walk through that door. That's not always easy. One has to be committed. Because to enter the spiritual world, one has to be free from material contamination. The spiritual world is so pure. So, did I answer your question about Prabhupada? Did I tell you anything? But he was also very intimate. He was a teacher, but he was also a person, and a very special person, a very loving person. You know, he spread his love. I was traveling with him in Switzerland, and the schedule wasn't very busy at that. It was winter. He said that was very hellish. You know, people think it's so beautiful, the snow, but you know, it's actually, if you have to walk through it, you know, in your bare feet, you wouldn't think so. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada said, today I'm going to teach you how to cook kichoris. So I mean, very, you know, intimate relationship, and you know, he could, you know, even the most mundane things he would make spiritual, because he knows Krishna likes kichoris. So for the deities, you know, he would teach us how to make all these different things to please the Lord. And when I was first started in New York, I was cutting garlands. I was attending New York University, but in the morning I would do the temple program and then go to school. And I was taking care of his small Radha Krishna deities in his apartment behind the temple at 26 Second Avenue. And I used to cut garlands from carnations and then string them, you know, and put them on the deities and sometimes bathe the deities. So now Radha and Krishna are showing me all these temples they have here. You know, they're saying, remember that little place in New York now? See, you know, the glory of Krishna is being reestablished in India. So I think it's a fantastic time to be alive in India, seeing this transformation. You know, the government is actually very supportive. In fact, I just met about an hour ago with a secretary in the BJP, and you know, they help us to acquire land and you know, be as supportive as possible. You know, which is really nice. You know, when we first came here, the newspaper said we were CIA. So see the transformation, you know. But you know, and it's not funny. One of my godbrothers, who I spent time with in Malaysia, he spent 6 months in jail. He was in Mayapur, and because the papers had published something, they came and they wanted to arrest someone, and he volunteered. 6 months in jail he spent with no windows, and you know, he sacrificed himself to save one of his godbrothers, who is now Jai Pataka Maharaj, who has like thousands and thousands of disciples from being taken. So, you know, he did a great service. And Prabhupada was very appreciated that. And now he's very advanced in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna is reciprocating. We love Krishna, and Krishna love us. Prabhupada said, your attempt should not be to see Krishna, because we're not qualified to see Krishna, but to act in such a way that Krishna wants to see you. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you know, offer me with love a fruit, a flower, a leaf, I will accept it. So Krishna wants our love. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need billions of dollars. But if you can build a temple for him, you know, all the better. But even if you have nothing, if you have love, that's all that's required. And he reciprocates that. So it's, you know, it's very special and very rare. You know, you asked about Prabhupada. A pure devotee is the most rare person, you know, you can ever meet. And Srila Prabhupada was sent to this material world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great devotee in our line of disciplic succession, who wrote that a great acharya would come to spread Lord Chaitanya's movement all over the world. Because Lord Chaitanya wanted in every town and village the chanting of Hare Krishna. And now it's actually coming to pass. In Delhi, how many centers do we have?
Close to 18.
Just see. And we,
18 big temples, there are many centers.
Centers
Yeah.
are many, temples are 18.
so we can see how it's spreading so rapidly because people are seeing when they go to the temple that it's not just talk. People are actually living this. It's real. So anyone can join. There was a woman singing in the temple last night so beautifully, and these are like local people, serving, using their skill that God has given them to serve God. You don't have to do anything different. Do what you're doing, but make it for Krishna. Somehow spiritualize it, and then it becomes wonderful. Obviously, everyone is searching for something. When before I joined, I was sitting in NYU talking to one of my professors, and a big man came up, and he was very excited. And this big man, his name was Bruce Scharf. I don't think any of you know his name, but in ISKCON we called him later Brahmananda. And he was very close to Srila Prabhupada. He had a lot of love for Srila Prabhupada. But he was very excited that day before he had joined Krishna consciousness, because he was a couple of grades ahead of me at NYU. And the Rolling Stones had just released a song called Satisfaction. And the theme of the song is that there is no satisfaction in the material world. No matter how many material things you acquire, it doesn't satisfy the soul. It might satisfy your body, but you're not your body. You're not your soul. So you'll never experience full satisfaction until you satisfy the soul, which is your actual self. I mean, when you were 3 years old, you might have some memories when you were 3. But now your body's completely different, but you're the same. You're still here. So any logical person, even a scientific person, would see that all the cells in your body have changed. They're all different, but you're still here. So that means that you're not the body, you're something else. When a person dies, the body's still there, but they say he's gone because the soul is no longer there. So this is the process. This is the beginning of that process. No one expects you to, become a sannyasi or anything like that, but just be engaged in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, everyone is equal. There's no difference between a sannyasi, a brahmachari, a householder, or a retired person. They're all equal because they're all spirit souls. And each one can do something to engage in Krishna consciousness. And association is also important. Try to associate with devotees. I had to come to India to associate with my real family. And, I'm getting so much, you inspire me so much, all the devotees and even people who are just becoming devotees, because, they're so sincere about spiritual life. So any more questions? Did I answer that question yet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So I understand you've been associated with ISKCON for quite some time. So in your life, what was if you want to share in your life, what was the moment that you experienced that now this is the time that I want to associate with ISKCON? Any trigger point in your life, your personal.
Well, for myself,
Yeah.
my major was literature and philosophy at NYU. And in one of my courses, I don't know if I was required, but I read Bhagavad Gita as part of my course. Okay, but it was only the translation, it wasn't a commentary. So I was very impressed by the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita that Krishna explains. But I couldn't understand how to live that philosophy because it's a philosophy that's meant to live, not just to be on paper. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna answers that question. And he says one must approach a spiritual master because he knows the truth and he will guide you. But even before that, I'll give you. I haven't told this to many people, but since you asked, when I was 6 years old, my mother put this map of India. I didn't even know what India was at that time when I was 6. In my room, on my wall, and I still have that map for some reason. I don't know how I kept it for so long, but I had it when I was in the States recently. I took it to experts who could understand what it was. And I learned that the map was made it was the original map, and it was made in over 300 years ago, in 1720, in Amsterdam. And, that was like something telling me this is your future. India is important in your life, so it was very unusual event. I never even thought that it could be, so old. And but it was prophetic. It was prophetic. There's a plan. God has a plan, and we just have to, become receptive to it. But anyway, getting back to your question, I was in school and I had read Bhagavad Gita. So then I was looking how I can implement this in my life. And a friend of mine brought me some prasad from 26 Second Avenue. They had found out about the temple. And so I became, maybe this is the answer,
Okay, the prasad.
No, the prasad was just, helped, but I had to do something. So eventually I moved close to I found out there was a temple, and I visited the temple. I engaged in chanting, and it was very attractive. And then I spoke to some of the devotees, and I was, and they told me about Prabhupada. And I said, maybe this is the teacher to help me to live according to this philosophy. So that turned out to be true. So Krishna made arrangements, but everyone has a different story.
Guruji, thank you. I'm very glad that I see you direct disciple of the Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I'm very happy and glad today. And I lived many years in European country, especially in Russia.
In Russia.
I live about 40 years there.
Mm-hmm.
And there, your passport name is Krishna Prasad. Many these pastors, Russian pastors, told me to change my name. They think my name is the name of the Rakshas. I don't know why the Christianity think that my name Krishna is the name of the Rakshas, and I should change the name. And they don't call me always Krishna. They used to say me Grisa. Even they are afraid to tell me my name.
They can't say the word Krishna?
They don't like this. They put my name Grisa. They always telling me Grisa.
You know why? Because Krishna consciousness is spreading like crazy in Russia. And they're jealous.
Once,
You go to Mayapur, it's full of Russian devotees.
yeah, I know that. Once this Russian church spokesman, Mr. Dmitry, on in TV also announced that Krishna is devil, righteous. And
Yeah.
our ISKCON devotee from city Sanpur board give the court case.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, he was defeated, this
Mhm.
church spokesman, and he once said, excuse me. That was happened.
Mm.
it is very difficult to walk in Europe.
Yeah,
Due to Prabhupada,
because the demons,
yeah,
they
demon,
don't like,
due to demon,
they
yeah.
don't like Krishna. They
They
don't
say
like
demon,
God.
it's demon, not God.
Mhm.
Demon. I want to show that if there was no Prabhupada,
But Russia comes from the word rishi,
yeah,
because they used to go north
yeah,
to meditate.
yeah. If there was no Prabhupada, we couldn't stay in Europe like the name Krishna.
Mm.
Every Christian was thinking that I am demon.
Prabhupada is
Thank,
saving us.
thank you for Prabhupada.
But you know, in Russia, now that you brought up Russia, I studied Russian literature when I was in school.
You said it.
And Dostoevsky was a great Dostoevsky was a great Russian author. And he wrote a book, Crime and Punishment.
Yeah. Very famous book.
And in the book, the author is very bewildered because the character in the book wants to believe in God. He's very devoted, but he wants to believe in God, but he has a problem. He can't understand the suffering of children. Well, if God is so good, why do children suffer in this world in so many cases? In Krishna consciousness, we have the answer. Christianity doesn't have the answer. Doesn't have the answer. Do you know the answer? What's the answer?
Just because of the past, what they have done,
Karma.
it's a kind of prarabdha.
Karma in the
Past
previous life. Yes,
So they have to go through that.
right. So now we can understand that and understand that it's not that God is being mean. They're suffering the results of their karma from a previous life. So it's all tied together. So we need to get out of this cycle of birth and death, to get rid of these miseries. Because in the material world, there will always be miseries.
Is it possible by bypass karma?
Yes, become Krishna consciousness. Chant Hare Krishna, and we'll free you from karma. You make your own future. You won't have to go according to what happened in the past. All your bad activities, sins will fly away, and your soul will become free and pure. That's the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Last question, Mataji.
Namaskar. Hare Krishna.
Oh,
My question was same actually. If our destiny is predestined and everything happens according to our karmas, and by chanting Hare Krishna and by getting associated with this consciousness, can we erase everything that we have done and have a peaceful and happy life?
yes, that's exactly what I was
Yeah.
just explaining. Become freed from all the karma that you're carrying with you from your previous lives when you become Krishna consciousness. Because the soul is pure, but it's covered by anarthas, dirty things. So we need to wipe it clean by seeing the deity. So you have five senses. You have touch, eyes, hearing, the tongue, taste, the nose, the smell. Smell the incense offered to the Lord. See the deity in the temple. Taste prasad. And touch your beads. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Use all the senses, but use them, spiritualize them. And then that clears everything up.
Hare Krishna. So we are very grateful to have Prabhuji among us.
Oh, you feel okay.
Yeah. Anybody? Anyone? Yes. Aage, quickly.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, Srila Prabhupada ji traveled to USA at the age of 69. When you have must met him, you must be approximately 70-year-old, I believe.
Yeah.
So how was he in person? Like, was he full of energy? Because at this age, he traveled for so long and then spread the Krishna
Oh,
consciousness.
he was enthusiastic. Even when he was older, in I think around 70.
77.
No. Before that, I was preaching in Malaysia, and we were distributing a lot of Prabhupada's books. because people were very receptive. So they also wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada. And he was attracted to the preaching, even though he was getting older and older. Krishna gave him the energy to, travel everywhere. I think he traveled around the world 12 times in his elderly age. So he came to Malaysia to preach, and I took him went to Kuala Lumpur, a city called Tilak Ansan, Ipoh, and Penang. And he traveled by car in the heat. There was no air conditioning back then in the cars. And it was very exhausting for me, and I was young. And he was old, and he tolerated it in order to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya. The devotee is willing to do anything to serve his spiritual master and to preach the message of Krishna, because that's what he lives for. But you're right, it is a important point. But Krishna gave him the energy to do that. He almost didn't make it to America. He had 2 heart attacks on the ship in the cargo on the Jaladuta, and but Krishna saved him. In order to, but there's a quote. He reasons ill that Vaishnavas die when they are living in sound. He's living the sound of his words. He's present among us in some magical way. I don't know how, but he is present, and he's guiding us. And I can feel his presence now more strongly than when he was physically on the planet, because he knows that we need him. He's very loving. Any other questions? Is that it? Okay.
Prabhuji, have read somewhere that he used to write early in the morning or in the night, like 3
Yeah, he
o'clock.
would get up around 12 o'clock at night and
He's got
translate.
so many books
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us. And in night, when there is no distraction, he would continue write when everyone was sleeping, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning till 4 or 5. Like
Yeah,
those
yeah.
3-4 hours in the night,
Right.
he used to write.
Yes, that's true. I was with him in Australia, and I was staying in his apartment, and in the middle of the night, I hear a bell ringing, which means I have to go to his room. So I enter his room, and it's all dark, and there's a small light by his small table, and he has Srimad Bhagavatam open, the 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Does anyone know what's in the 7th canto? Prahlad Maharaj. And he motions for me to sit down. And he didn't want anything, he just wanted to talk to me. And he started talking about the meaning of Vaishnav, the pure devotee of the Lord. And he said Prahlad didn't want to go back to home, back to Godhead alone, because he had great compassion for the conditioned souls. He didn't want to leave them behind. He said, this is Vaishnav. And there were tears streaming out of his eyes. So where else are you going to find someone who's crying in the middle of the night because people are suffering and he wants to help them? This is the true pure devotee of the Lord. So and he wasn't translating then. He was just experiencing this. So very special. Haribo. So take it seriously. And these devotees are doing such sincere service to help us, to guide us, to make progress in Krishna consciousness. And whatever progress you make will never be lost. Even if for some reason you're unable to continue, it will never be lost. It will be with your soul forever.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
This is not my
Krishna
phone.
Krishna, Hare
Your
Hare,
phone.
Hare Ram,
Hare Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram.
Hare Hare. So we are very thankful to Prabhuji for giving us his valuable time. And Prabhuji, in a very short period of time, narrate the whole journey of Srila Prabhupada and his personal experiences with Srila Prabhupada. And we can see how, I mean, many of you would not know, but Prabhuji shared with us that even for preaching, he even had to go in jail for some time in Australia. So he was in jail for a couple of days in Australia, and in at some place he had to like spend nights on just outside. He didn't have any place of residence there. When Prabhupada sent him at some in some country, I'm not forgetting the name, but he did not have a residence. He just
It's
had to
in
spend
Singapore.
in Singapore. Outside a building he had to stay, and this under the sky. So it is due to their struggle, this big movement of ISKCON, which has more than 800 centers across the globe, more than 200 centers in India. And as Prabhuji mentioned earlier, when he was in ISKCON, India had 7 temples, and now in whole Delhi NCRs we have more than 18 big temples. So you can have a round of applause for that. And because of Prabhupada and his dedicated disciples like Prabhuji, that we are able to reap these results. And so, and last but not the least, I just want to make one point that Prabhuji, since you mentioned that earlier you had 7 temples when you associated with ISKCON, and we have now many temples, more than 100 to 100. So, but still, I can see that people are very attracted towards Western culture. That's what my feeling is. And even I was like that before coming to ISKCON. I got attracted to this culture when I first went to Mayapur, which is the headquarter of ISKCON. Most of you may not be knowing. It is the headquarter of ISKCON. It is in West Bengal. So Mayapur is the place where you can find people from across the world, and they have settled there. Many of them have taken a residence of India. So when I went to Mayapur and had seen people chanting and many Chinese, Russian devotees, American devotees, so I got developed much faith in this
Really?
process.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's good.
So now we can proudly say we can see the situations that where people are attracted towards Western culture, but at the same time we have Prabhuji from West, from America, and he has adopted Indian culture wholeheartedly, and not only adopted but also preaching it vigorously.
But India is not the same as it was in 1970. India has advanced so much, sending spaceships to the moon. So, I mean, they're doing it at a fraction of the cost of the Western countries.
Yes.
So it's our job also to push Indian culture, because India will be the jewel of all the countries. You know, I mean, it's so advanced in software. Who controls the software controls the world. Remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese can turn off every light in America, probably. You know, but and India is the master of software. There's a reason, because the Vedas are the most intelligent science of the soul. There's nothing else like it in the world. It's unique. So be proud of your Indian culture and push India forward.
Oh, so let's have one big round of one-time chanting for Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Prabhuji would like to have one group photo with you.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mataji, please be on the left side of Prabhuji, and you all can